Hello, just popping into both sites. We'll get going here in a second. Hi Amanda, how you doing? Just waiting for just waiting for Facebook to load in. Sometimes it takes a minute. Amanda, thank you for coming in. All right, there goes Facebook. Happy Wednesday, everyone. Hope you are drinking good. It was crazy storming earlier, but now it's a beautiful day. Welcome. For those of you who don't know, my name is Rachel Kewen. I am the Somm and Sales Manager here at Penswoods Winery in Chadds Ford. Today we're going to be doing a live tasting on our Cabernet Sauvignon Reserve 2015. Before we get started, just an exciting thing, today is our last Quarant Wine of the week, or this week is our last Quarant Wine of the week, and we will be opening up to the public next Friday, June 12th, and we'll start taking reservations on Monday, June 8th. So make sure you mark your calendars because we are sure to fill up fast. Hi Kathy, how are you doing? So we're sure to fill up fast, so make your reservations on Monday. We will be open on Friday the 12th. We are busy as bees getting ready to welcome you all back here. So excited. And just because we aren't doing a Quarant Wine special, we do have a slew of virtual experiences still coming your way. So mark your calendars. They're all up on Facebook, so you can keep in touch with all the cool events we have going on. Anyway, back to Cabernet. So Cabernet Sauvignon, it is the king of grapes. It is the red wine we all think of when we think of red wine. It feels like the granddaddy of them all, even though it's a relatively newer on the scene, but it's grown everywhere, from Canada to South America. It's native France, Bulgaria, Lebanon, Australia. She's literally all over the world. Very, very popular, and known for the ageability of the tannins that soften over time. So, excuse me. Sorry. I have a delivery man right now. Hi, we're 124 Beaver Valley Road. We're not 140, no. Have a good one. Sorry. Those delivery guys are working hard, so help them out where we can. Anyway, known for its ageability and the tannins that soften after decades. And like I said, it's so well known and it's so ubiquitous with red wine drinking that it's actually, and it's so prominent, it's actually hard to remember that it's a relatively newcomer in terms of some varietals. Like, we talked about Moscato and Pinot Noir being ancient wine varietals, thousands of years old. And even though Cabernet Sauvignon is very old, it's actually only created as kind of an accidental crossing between Cabernet Franc and Sauvignon Blanc in the 17th century in France. So again, still 17th century, but in the scope of wine, definitely newer on the scene. And we know it's a cross of Sauvignon Blanc and Cabernet Franc, but that actually wasn't proven until about 96, 97 at UC Davis when they started doing clonal testing. And they were like, oh, yep, we're right. That's what she is. But anyway, so created in France, and then it became adopted all over the country because it's known for its durability. It has a nice thick skin, but it really found its home in Bordeaux. So if you're drinking red, if you love Bordeaux, you love Cabernet Sauvignon, and obviously, it's a blend, but she's a big, big part of what they do there. And what they really love in France is it has the healthy level of tannins that can evolve in the bottle over time. It responds incredibly well to oak aging, so there's all these new flavor possibilities. And the success in the Rion from that region, became very, very famous, and they started growing Cabernet in California. And we all know at the 76 judgment in California, Stag's Leap, Napa Cab, beat out all the top Bordeaux chateaus, and really from there it just exploded worldwide. And like I said before, someone has a question, are you guys doing outdoor tasting? We are not doing outdoor tastings at this moment. We are opening up on Friday, May 12th, and we will be doing bottle service only at that time. We hope to bring back tastings at some point, but it's not part of our reopening plan right now. Thanks for asking. So a little bit about Cab Sav in the vineyard. It is a thick-skinned grape, small, deep, purpley bluish berries, and the fruit is actually, in terms of all the winemaking grapes, it's actually a very small berry, so it has a very high skin and seed to pulp ratio. So what that means is that it has a higher proportion of phenols and tannins, which greatly influence the structure and character of the wine and kind of give it that big meatiness that we really love. And some clones of Cab Sav are naturally lower yielding, and we'll touch on that in just a second, but it can actually be quite vigorous, so it's really important to take rootstock selection into consideration when planting your vineyard to kind of cut back some of that vigor so you can really concentrate the flavors into fewer clusters of wine, making, you know, a little more beautiful, more structure, more flavor, more aromatic, yeah. Sorry, I lost my train of thought there. More aromatic wine. So again, like we've talked about before, you know, the lower the yield, the greater quality of fruit in a vine. But it is late budding, which is great for a cooler climate region. It tends to bud, you know, a couple weeks later than everyone else, so it really reduces that likelihood of frost injury. Again, thick, durable skin, so it makes it really resistant to the elements, any animals or rot, sometimes powdery or insects, sometimes powdery mildew gives it a little bit of trouble, but in general it's very consistent in the structure and flavor, so it's one of those grapes that is a winemaker or a vineyard manager's dream because it doesn't give you too much trouble in the vineyard overall, but it is, it tends to like, you know, the gravelly soils, kind of like left bank Bordeaux has, but as long as your soil is very well draining, and we have that out here, it's very rocky, sits on the top of our hill, a lot of good drainage, it still can promote that little bit less vigor and keep the yields low, and again the flavor high. And Cab Sav is really great because it's strongly influenced by terroir, but also it can vary from cool climate to warm climate, so you can kind of get two different spectrums when you're talking about Bordeaux. So New World tends to be a little more fruity, while the Old World tends to be more austere and earthy. Two of the clones we have out here in our vineyard, we have the Loire Valley clone 216. It is very intense, known for giving really, really beautiful color. It does tend to be a little more vigorous, so we are cognizant about leaf pulling, managing the canopy, but we also have a Bordeaux clone 337, and that one tends to be a little less vigorous, lower yielding, but rich and very structured. So these two clones together we blend and make this really, really beautiful wine before you, or before me. But before we get into the specifics of this vintage in particular, I always like to kind of touch on kind of Cabernet Sauvignon flavor profile in general. It tends to be more full-bodied, a nice medium acidity, which makes it great with food, and we'll talk about some pairings in just a second. But dark, beautiful color, kind of like a rich black ruby red. It tends to have a higher ABV, especially in warmer regions, but dry, healthy tannins, some dark fruit, black cherry, cassis, currant, little black olive, and you get the notes from both of its parent varietals. You get some of that graphite pencil shaving from the Cabernet Franc. You get some of that pyrazine compound, that grassy note from the Sauvignon Blanc, and it can show up depending on the region, eucalyptus to menthol, kind of that minty or more of a grassy bell pepper note. And then some of the barrel aging notes you usually see are vanilla, some chocolate, baking spice, cedar, and maybe a little bit of whiff of leather, depending on, you know, what kind of oak you're using, how long you're going for, but those kind of general what you're looking for in Cab Sav. For cooler climate Cab Sav in general, it tends to be more firm with the tannin. So a little more firm, a little more tannic, and it really benefits from at least a few years of bottle aging because of that. You'll get red currant, some tobacco, nice peppery complexity, a little bit higher acidity, and a little bit lower ABV. Because again, cooler climate, those sugars don't develop as much as they would, say, in Napa, where it's warmer, so where it tends to be a little more jammy, a little more voluptuous. I find that a cooler climate cab, like in Bordeaux and like here in Pennsylvania, tends to be more nuanced, more fresh, a little brighter with the red fruit, kind of more herbal, savory, and again, like a little more earthy. Kind of like, it's a delicate dance, and then it's got, your big loud cousin over here in California. But this wine in particular, this is our Cabernet Sauvignon Reserve 2015. Again, our very last current wine of the week. So she's 10% off through Saturday, so be sure you snag a few bottles of this guy. She is absolutely stunning. This one, oh man. So our Cab Sav vibes were planted in 2012. This particular vintage we harvested on the 21st of October, which was great long growing season. It always depends on the weather around here. Sometimes we have to pick our cab a little bit earlier, like around the 10th or the 12th, but like I said, this one made it to the 21st. We typically, traditionally in Bordeaux, they do about 3 weeks of maceration on the skins. This one's, we spent about the same, and fermented between like 28, 30 degrees Celsius. Cab Sav tends to be fermented a little bit higher to really get that deep color and flavor extraction out of the wine. And this has spent 18 months in French oak. 274 cases, 13.5 ABV, and probably one of the, if not the most aromatic Cab Sav we have ever made. She smells so good, and I always recommend with Cab in general because it does have a lot of expressive flavor, and it has kind of a more crunchy, grippy tannins. You're going to want to decant this for at least 15 to 30 minutes to kind of soften some of those intense flavors and soften the mouthfeel a little bit. And so I did that for here, and it really just comes out, oh God, this wine smells like blackberries and plums, and it has that nice underlying note of green peppercorn. And if you're not drinking it with me, you really should be drinking this wine. It has this round, velvety mouthfeel, and it's only from 2015, so it's still young in its aging years, but it's already developing that nice velvety mouthfeel, a juicy, overripe blueberry with some dried herb notes, and rich, warm spiciness on the finish. It is just a very, very lovely wine. I can't believe how expressive this wine is in the nose, and I really love that little hint of baking spice on the finish. It just stays with you. Very, very comforting little wine, and given its acidity and tannin, Cabernet and this vintage, obviously it pairs so well with food. Now, Cabernet can tend to be very bold and assertive, so it can overwhelm more light and delicate dishes. So you really want to think about kind of what you're doing here with Cabernet. You don't want to do anything like spicy, like hot spicy, because that's going to accentuate and aggravate the tannins. They're going to battle each other out. The tannins are going to feel more astringent. The food's going to feel more spicy. It's just not a very good match. When you're thinking about spices, think about oak related spices. So you want to get more like vanilla and nutmeg and something to kind of accentuate that, and think about more fats and definitely proteins. Everyone loves a good steak and a cab, and that's kind of the direction you always want to go in. But there's some other things you can do. You can slow roasted lamb, you can do beef brisket. If you're fancying at the club, beef Wellington is a very classic cab and food pairing. But, just kind of think like along the lines of grilled, roasted beef, and you really can't go wrong with cab. And some of the cheeses, some sharp cheddar, Swiss Gruyere, any aged cow cheese, but sometimes brie is very, very good with cab as well. So don't count out some more some brie, but kind of beware of like the fuller flavored cheeses and blue cheese, because sometimes the strong flavors of that cheese can kind of battle it out with the strong flavors of the Cab. And what we want to do is kind of more focus on the wine here and bring out the best in both worlds. So, but Cab, you know, in general, growing Cab, making Cab, it's all about striking the right balance. And a well-made cool climate Cab has wonderful, very intriguing flavors, this finesse and complexity that you don't usually find with New World warmer climate reds, and it's a nice counterpoint to those two. I actually really encourage you to pick up a bottle of our wine and try it back to back with a Napa Cab, because you know there's powerful, intense, big fruit over here, but then there's kind of more nuanced, mineral driven, earthy, delicate fruit here, and it's just kind of nice to see them side by side. It's like the yin and the yang of the Cab Sauv world back to back. But yeah, if you have any questions, that's pretty much all I got with Cab Sauv today. I'm totally happy to talk about it. So like I said, if you have any questions, just direct message. It's a very, very beautiful wine. Again, 10% off until Saturday. And we are definitely looking forward to all of you coming back out to the vineyard on June 12th. Please get your reservations in. We are not taking reservations until Monday the 8th, so make sure you call that day to get your spot. So excited to see you all back here at the vineyard too. Thanks again for watching, and I will see you guys again later. Take care. Bye.